Welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings, with me, Gretta Chamberlain, Yvonne Kraeher, Leigh Stima, and the Realm of Beings. Shifting Impressions, which is one of the vehicles that supports the transmission of the Realm of Beings, is here to assist you in delving into your being by providing numerous topics and discussions for you to intake as you deepen your connection with your inner world. Shifting Impressions is here to assist you in strengthening yourself as you excavate to understand your true nature. Leigh, Yvonne, and myself, with the Realm of Beings, eagerly invite you to join us today and learn to shift your mindset, shift your thoughts, and shift your focus to recreate your life and produce a new you. Shifting Impressions starts.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. I'm Leigh, and I'm here with Yvonne and Gretta, and as always, the Realm of Beings. We're very happy to be on Transformation Talk Radio every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. These conversations will help you examine your life and your creation of reality. They will help you to shift your impressions and understand what you're creating in your life and how it shows up. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning, Leigh. Good morning.
Well, today we are going to be chatting about the quotation, "Stay focused on what you want to actualize. Do not deviate from your focus." So, for me, I feel like I must have picked that one for us to chat about today, because I often think that I don't do such a good job in that, focusing on what I want to actualize. Often I find myself focused on what is showing up in my reality right now. And sometimes that is not wanted. And I don't know if it's a trait of the human condition to see what's here now and just, even if it's unwanted, to, kind of harp on it. And that, I think, only creates more of the same. So what can we do to shift that? Maybe it's got something like a default focus, and try to remain focused on what we want, even when it may not be in front of us right at this moment.
I see Yvonne. She's ready. She's ready. I can tell.
Who, me?
Yes.
I just completely resonate with everything that Leigh just said. And I'm thinking that our listeners could use some tools. If I'm hearing Leigh, I'm actually connecting with what Leigh is saying, in that, like you're in the here and now, and so many things going on. Like I work at home, and I think of all the distractions that I take me in different paths, and then part of that is me personally, and I think it might be true for other people. You get sidetracked and hijacked by other people's emotions, where you end up like, you could be thinking, oh, I'm focused on what I want, but then somebody comes along and does something or says something, and then suddenly you're out of focus. So this is a challenge. It seems like a simple concept, but as we unpack most of our quotes on the show, there's so many layers. And this one, I think we really do need to talk about tools. Like, how can people, stay on focus, stay on what they actually want, even though it might not be in front of them and they might not see it happening or any possibility. And I know, Greta, over the years you've told me, because I have my own issues here, and all you kept telling me over the years is just focus on health, focus on the health that you want to bring into your life and that of your family. So I don't know, take it away, Greta. It's your turn.
I guess I didn't do too much of a focus on that for myself. When you bring up health, next week we're going to be talking about my what I created for myself. So, but when we get to that, you'll understand exactly why I'm laughing when Yvonne says that I am the one that told her, you know.
Well, you look so young now. Whatever challenge you had, we were just talking about that before the show started. Whatever that health challenge was, Greta, which we will unpack in another show, you've lost like 20 years or at least. So may not necessarily have been a bad thing.
No, it wasn't a bad thing. It was, my focus was to get healthy though.
There you go.
You know, I used some of the tools, not to start talking about my challenge, but when you said tools, I think a tool that we don't really talk about a lot on the podcast, it can be meditation. Meditating on something that we want, because when you meditate on it, it gives you the opportunity to intensify how you're thinking about it on a conscious level, you know, and different people can use different techniques. I know some people can go on to YouTube and they have meditative music, or they have these wonderful abstract designs that are moving, you know, that you can just sit in front of your computer or phone, whatever, and just stare at it and just really go inside yourself. Use that circle or use that design as the means to go into self, because meditation is going into self. Now, other focus is just to stay with thought on it as much as you possibly can. You know, the more you think about it, and that goes for things that you want and things that you don't want. Because see, focus can go both ways. You know, you can be focused on something that you want and you just focus on it. I want this, but then you have to do a component of that would be creative visualization. And that term, if I'm not mistaken, was coined by Shakti Gawain. She has a book on creative visualization. And I know after that, several people have probably written books on it, where it's like using your imagination. Let's just make it simple. You're using your imagination and you're seeing these things happen. So you're focusing on it. So imagination is another way of focusing. Some people use in meditation candles. They just light a candle, set it in front of them, and stare at the flame. And I'm sure if we queried the audience, they'd probably give us a whole myriad of information on how to meditate. But that's one way. For me personally, I just think about it. I think about it. But I don't sit and just think. Oh, you know, I just don't do that. I just say, I think, and so it is.
So it's one time then, because I think you could get obsessed about anything and carried away.
I agree. And you know, the obsession, what is obsession? Obsession, we can equate it with fear.
Correct. Yeah.
So when you're obsessing, then you're actually calling to yourself the opposite of what you want. because now you've introduced fear. And we've talked a lot on this podcast about fear, because fear actually gives you what you fear. That's the thing, So I think about it. I might think about it again. But I think about it, I think intensely, because then I'll turn around and something would occur that I want to occur. Of course, there are things that I want to occur as well that I'm focusing on, but they still haven't actualized themselves. But still, yeah.
So what happens when those little bumps in the road come up, all those detours that like try to take you off your focus? What do you do about them?
That's a good question. What do you do with them? QDR.
But I guess we could use those little bumps in the road too, as, instead of thinking they're not good, we could use them, if we're clear enough to catch it, right, as like, oh, thank you for that awareness of like what I am resonating with, because this is what's showing up. So even though I may be thinking, oh, I'm thinking about this in a positive way or whatever, hello, what's showing up is proof of concept.
Yeah. But you know what, Leigh, I think you touched on something also, and I think Yvonne was touching on it, and that is that we are really creating the realities all the time, and we're always thinking. We haven't stopped thinking, and some of us go into worry, like some people are afraid that they're going to run out of money, or they don't have enough money to do this, or I don't have enough money to do that. So that's a worry, and we suggest that you defocus on that and go into concepts of seeing prosperity. I don't know why I feel that I just deviated from what you said, Leigh. So take me back there, and excuse me, everybody, while I call.
No, I mean, I think you were on the, it was a tandem path, so to speak. But it's interesting when you said that this obsessive thinking is, equanimous with fear, because, I don't know if so many people may make that connection, right? Because maybe in some sense, people are just saying, sitting down and saying, oh, I want that new car, or, whatever that is. And maybe they would think that they were actually, the more they think about it, the better it would be, right? But I mean, I do see how there could be that fine line, right? Like how that obsession could transition to worry and then fear. Like you're thinking about it so much because subconsciously you're worried that it's actually not going to manifest, right? Like you're worried that you're not going to create it somewhere. So that was interesting to point that out, that there's, too much of anything sometimes is just too much.
Right.
It's out of balance, right? If it's too much.
Right. Or it's just right where you want it to be. In other words, you want to be in that experience of what we just said is unbalanced, because everything works for our good. It looks like it might be the worst thing going, but everything works for our good. And it works for our good because everything inside this reality where we are right now is our lessons. So we're creating lessons. And why do we have lessons? We have lessons for growth. We also create lessons so we're not bored with what's going on. You
That's
know,
an interesting one.
you know, some of us create lessons because we want to interact with other people in a different way. You know, sometimes we want to interact with another person in a way so that I just feel I want to slap you down. You know, that's an interaction right there. That's a focus, you know. I mean, reality is reality. Everything is a reality. That's kind of where I am at this point. When we do I was thinking about that this morning. When we do anything, we've created a new reality. Because right now, if I hold up my hands like this is the reality I have. As soon as I put my hands up, I have a reality. If I move my hands forward, I have a reality. If I move my hands back, I have a reality. Every time I open my mouth to say something, it's a new reality. Because what is the one reality is that it's a blank slate. That's how I look at it. I'm beginning to look at that. This is a blank slate, and all I'm doing is filling up notice I said my slate. So the only thing I want to do with my slate is fill it up, focus, create, experience. You know, I don't even know if I can repeat that now, but those 4 things, but that's it. It's a clean slate. And, you know, you're putting up on your slate things that you want to experience, regardless if you think you want to experience it or not.
Right, because it's there. So clearly no one else is doing it. You are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I mean, just having a friend of mine was involved in an automobile accident. He and his wife, well, he and his wife were not hurt, but the car is totaled, you know, and they only had liability insurance on it. So therefore it's not going to be replaced. Right, right. So then we look at, well, how did you manage to do that? You know, you created it. He was driving, so he created the doggone thing. But then you look at, well, why would you do something like that? And that's back in the unconscious. Because see, the unconscious is working. It's just working, working, working. It never stops. And it remembers everything. You know, it remembers when you blink your eyes. It can remember how many times you blinked your eyes since you were born. You know, it can remember everything that was going on while you were in your mother's womb.
Wow.
You know, it'll remember everything before you went into conception, when you moved from being an energy essence into an incarnate being. It remembers all of that. It doesn't forget it. So that's why sometimes if we haven't learned something, the unconscious says, oh, we haven't learned this, let's try this again. You know, and you wind up looping. Which is, you know what, which just dawned on me, which is another type of focus. Looping. Keep doing the same thing over and over again.
But that's unconscious though.
Yeah, but it's still a focus. Who's to say that focus has got to be totally conscious?
Yeah, so if you make that loop conscious, then you can go into a different, you can choose differently. While you're still in an unconscious loop, you're focused on it to learn those lessons and keep repeating them. But the minute you step out of the loop and into a different reality, then, you know, it gives you and empowers you, I think, to learn something else or consciously choose something else, which in turn leads you to learning a new lesson.
Right, right. Or giving you a new loop. not the
Loop.
but
Oh
I
my
know,
God.
you
So
know.
all we do is spend our life in different loop after loop after loop after loop.
When I realized I had a loop that was 62 years old, I said, "Oh my God, I've been doing this for 62 years," and I'm
I
just
have the same one,
realizing.
Greta. I have a similar one.
And you go, "Oh my God, oh my God!"
It's like going on a merry-go-round. You're on the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, that's
Same
why
ride.
we, you know, one thing, one focus that we can have in this reality that we've chosen to be in is to move with ease.
Okay. Move with ease. Okay, let's all focus on that, see what happens by next week when we come back on. Move with ease.
Yes, move with ease, you know, move with ease and peace, you know, that's it.
That's good for the holidays because
Yeah.
I think like not only individually, I don't really get like into that craziness anymore. I used to, but I think collectively, when the energy around the holidays, people feel because there's this deadline of December, you know, for the Christian people. And, you know, like you want to have all, you know, go out and buy all these presents and do all this cooking and decorating. And like there's this deadline looming, like you, and then chances are people tend to a lot of people do, from my experience, procrastinate. So the closer it gets to that day, like you get stuck in that loop of like, I don't even know what it is, of feeling stress of running out of time. And so the loop goes around every year. And so for us, maybe it would be a good focus to think about peace and ease so that we can somehow transform that stress in people's lives. So.
You know, I was working with a gentleman this morning, and we created a QDR around it. But he says, you know, this is the season where I become very tense.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, just, okay, let's get rid of it. So the QDR, quick displace replace, that's what QDR means for those who are listening. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Just let it know. Let your unconscious know, I don't want this. So it says, I release all emotions and thoughts that support me in feeling tense during the Christmas season. You know, so that's this QDR, because you asked for tools. You and Leigh asked for tools at the beginning of the podcast, and that QDR is one of them. You know, and you can just create it. I know people now just say, oh, I created a QDR. You know, you recognize it's something that you don't want and you want to change it. So that's one way of changing it. I know I said meditation, but QDR, quick displace replace. And you, after you say, I love myself unconditionally. You're declaring love of self. And see, another thing to focus on is love of self. Love of self. Because that assists you in dictating your reality.
I was just thinking in that conversation about the loop, I think my impression has shifted because I was always like cursing those loops, right? But now it's almost like some sort of appreciation has sprung up for the loop, because that laser focus of the unconscious is so steady that, you know, and so patient, right? If you don't get it, like we will just keep showing it to you until we don't mind if it takes 100 years or 62 years. We will just keep knocking until you get it. So there's some sort of like calm perseverance there, I suppose. like a mother who doesn't lose its patience with us and just keeps showing us over and over again. So can I take that laser focus of the unconscious and move it to my conscious awareness on things that I prefer to show up?
Oh yeah, yeah, you can move it, you know, and you can move it by simply asking, show me this. Show me this.
What?
Really talking to yourself, but still it's saying,
Right.
you know, show me why I'm doing this. Let me know, or show me a better way of doing this, or show me how to get out of this loop in the first place, you know.
Right.
Yeah, people forget that they have that innate ability and power within to ask. And I don't think anything happens until you ask for it, but there's out there like
In
beings
here.
all that are there to assist us. This is the whole crux of our whole podcast is connecting to those beings, right?
Right, and shifting shifting our impressions of
Mhm.
how we think life should be, because at every moment we are shifting. We might not realize it, but we're shifting. You know, even just to have a conversation with one person, you're shifting because that person is giving you some ideas, you're giving them back some ideas. The ideas may be ones that you really like. Then again, it may be ideas that, oh, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, you know. But nonetheless, it's a sharing, it's an interchange. And while that person is talking, you're focused on what they're saying most of the time. You know, sometimes I've been known to look at you and I'm not, as a child, I used to do that. I practiced that. You know, when my mother would be saying something to me and you know, as a child, I would say, I do not want to hear that woman tell me that again. You know, although I wouldn't call her that woman, I'd say my mother. So she would be standing in front of me about something that I've done that I should not have done. Okay. And just going at me. And I'm just standing. And one day my mother told me, she says, you're being rude to me. And I said, oh. She says, you're not listening to what I'm saying to you. You know, she was right. But I didn't realize she would know that I was listening. But my mother was so psychic. She was a psychic woman, I swear to God. You know, like she'd say, don't ever lie to me. And she was right. You know, she would know if I decided, let me lie about this, I'm not gonna tell Greta. I can hear her now still telling me, Greta, you know. So focus, being out of focus can also get you in trouble.
But I mean, that's interesting, right? Because I mean, it just shows that, you know, psychic or otherwise, right? We can feel focus, right?
Yes,
We can
yes,
feel the focus of or lack thereof of another.
yeah,
So, I mean, that's also interesting because it's strong, right? I mean, I think Greta, what you were talking about is tuning out in today's lingo. You know, and maybe that tuning out, you know, helps energetically, right? Like whatever that energy those words, right? They carry weight, they carry vibration, they carry a frequency. And if you don't want to take that in, right? Maybe it's kind of just like like a like a field, right? Just no, like I am not hearing. And then that's like just one way to filter, I
yep,
guess.
yep. Definitely. And you know what came to me when you said that is that, you know, people who go into comas, not that everybody should go into a coma now. We're not saying that. I'm not saying that. And but that's what a coma is. It gives you a break.
Mhm.
Gives you a break. however you create it, be that you create just to go into it, or you create to be induced into it. But it's a way of moving away from the reality, this reality, and taking yourself into another reality that's possibly not as challenging.
However, but even if you're, in this 3D reality diagnosed as coma, the unconscious is still recording all of those. It's just you're consciously taking a little check out. But
absolutely. Yeah, it's the unconscious. Look how many, some people, I know of one woman I think I read about that stayed in the coma for 3 or 7 years and then came out of it, She says, well, I'm ready to re-enter the reality that I left.
It's all different.
You got that right. I'm really ready to deal with it. But anyway, is it time, Leigh? Is it time?
Yes, we are going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to hear from the realm of beings. So listeners, stay tuned. Thank you for being with us today and always on Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. I'm Yvonne, here with Leigh, Gretta, and we'll be back with the realm in just a minute or two. Thanks.
hello, listeners. Thank you for staying with us on Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. We have reached the point in the podcast where the realm gets to share their wisdom with us and weigh in on the quotation that they've written firsthand, or kind of second because it's through Gretta, but you know what I mean. So, realm, are you with us?
Yes, we are definitely here with both of you.
Thank you for joining all of us. So today we are talking about the quotation, stay focused on what you want to actualize. Do not deviate from your focus. And I guess we opened up the conversation with me asking why in our humanoid form I will just say me because I cannot speak for everyone else. Why do I have this kind of bad habit of focusing more on the unwanted that's showing up right now instead of focusing on the more wanted that may not be here in the moment?
I think you answered your question, Leigh, because when you said, focusing on what I don't want, something like that you said. So that's the thing. You see, sometimes what you don't want is right in front of your face and you're looking at it. You're experiencing it, So because it's right there, you've been, as a humanoid, a part of that is learning to look at it. So when you see it, then you focus on it. And sometimes you're focusing on it and giving it more energy. And when you give something more energy, what do? You're actualizing it more. So that is why in this podcast, ladies, you've been telling people, focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. And we've been saying that, but people still focus on what they don't want. Why do they focus on what they don't want? Because it's right there in front of your face.
Well, right. That's what I'm getting at. So, it's right there in front of my face. It's showing up because of, I guess, I know there's no past, but let's just say thoughts that have already been thought. And so then there it is in material form. And so it's there. Is the trick to just, if it's there and you make the decision that this is kind of unwanted, to say thank you for showing up? Because is that like the shift? Thank you for showing up. Thank myself for realizing that this is something that's like, you know what, I've had enough of it. And now that's your pivot point to say, okay, focus on wanted, whatever that may be.
Yes, but you know, one thing that goes along with that is looking at the why. Why do I have this creation of reality in front of my face now that I don't want? Why did I put it there? What, and get this, what I'm getting ready to say, what was I focusing on that put that there? You see, focus helps you to do it all.
Focus is the key.
Yes.
So I have a question, Realm. Like, say, for example, we are presented with a situation where things are showing up right there in the moment, things we may not want, like say in a relationship with another person. If we can just, instead of focusing on that, like, oh, she or he is saying that or doing that, and I'm feeling like this, like, what causes a shift if you just say immediately start thinking about they're doing something better, or something you prefer, like the change? Is that what you do, like right there and then, like right in that moment, shift it up?
See, right in that moment, there's a little piece when you get ready to shift from something that you don't like. Like you said, you were interacting with somebody and the interaction got a little challenging. So there's a tiny little thing that we've left out in reference to defocusing on something or refocusing on something, to either keep it or change it. Those are the two choices that I can think of: keep it or change it. So what that little tiny little thing that's in there that you want to have? Can you guess what it is? Go ahead. Take a guess.
I don't know. Go ahead, Leigh. Take a turn.
I don't know. It's like awareness. There's like, you have to be a little bit aware of what's, of the moment.
Yes, but it's there. It's something else.
Come on, Greta or Realm.
Yeah, we are. Greta is
Oh my gosh.
love of self.
Oh gosh, we should have known that. I should have known that.
But that's all right.
So like, if you can, in that moment with your boss or your partner or your child, whoever you're having that little tiny challenge, sometimes it's not little, that challenge, like in that little tiny moment, you just say, like, I love myself unconditionally. Is that it?
Yeah.
That's all we have to do?
Because see,
and then they do something else to change, like, I don't know.
They've got to. They've got to. See, that's how this works.
Oh, that's interesting.
When you change you, the other person doesn't change him or herself or itself. But when you change yourself, when you focus on changing yourself, here's where the focus comes. When you focus on, and what initiates the change is love of self. That's why we're always pushing love of self, and not just love of self, but unconditional love of self. That's why we push it. Because when you love yourself unconditionally, everybody around you must support you with that. Remember, it's create, support, support, create. And all of that is going on simultaneously in any interaction. I don't care what the interaction is with.
Feels
It's
like there's a lot to remember all at the same time.
You have to practice.
Oh, that's it. That's it. Okay.
You
That
practice it.
unconditional
We just
love
can't talk
muscle.
about it.
Right.
Right. You got to practice it. It's like when you
Playing
go
the
to school.
piano.
Huh? What did you say?
Like playing the piano, practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit middle C, you know, and the first thing you did on the music was hit C. Bum, 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 bum. You know those little songs. If you practice piano, they go bum, bum, bum. And your teacher would say, "Oh, Yvonne, you did that so beautifully." And all you did was play one note. Bum, bum, bum. But you had to practice that C, so then you could learn to practice the E. Bam, 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 bam. So then the song becomes bum, 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 bum. I don't know if I'm singing C or E, but anyway, it doesn't make any difference. You get my idea. Bum, 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 bum. And then you can add something else. Bum, 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 bum. I like that. Oh, that's a song. Bum, 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 bum. You see how you did that? You added it piece on piece on piece. And you were told, because you love yourself, you want to learn to play the piano. So your teacher or teachers give you accolades. Oh, that's so beautiful. Then you go on to the recital. You tell your parents, we're going to, I'm in the piano recital. And what do? You get up there in your beautiful dress. You sit down at the piano and you play bum, 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 and everybody claps. Oh, what a beautiful job you've done. That's all because you love yourself unconditionally. If you didn't, your teacher would say, you didn't do that right. You didn't hold that C for a half note, you see. But loving yourself is dictating to you what is going to be your focus. How about that? Yeah.
We like it.
Love of self is going to dictate to you what realities you create. Where's your focus going to be? If I'm loving myself, I'm going to be focused on prosperity of people, places, things, events, energy, money, substance to support me in that love of self. I see myself prosperous. So we can take out that C and put the word focus. I am focused on wonderful prosperity. I am focused on perfect health. You see, but if there's a little bird back there in that unconscious that says, somewhere it might say, you're not deserving. So it's focused on that. You're not deserving. So you have to tell it, look, I'm getting ready to start to play the note E, and I am playing C very well. So you don't have to tell me I'm not playing C very well, because I see and know and desire to play C very well. And I'm loving myself. Therefore, I am playing and experiencing playing C very well and getting accolades just for that one note.
I mean, it's really that kind of I mean, that I think is a fabulous tool. That's something that we can practice with and almost make a game out of it to see if you, in that challenging moment, if you have the awareness to, I mean, because Greta and I were talking during the week, and she was explaining to me that loving yourself is, it's a kind of energy. And so if you can find that space of when you're in the middle of a conflict and say, you can just say it internally, right, realm, like, I am loving myself unconditionally, and watch what that energy, like how it diffuses or changes the situation, right? We can play that game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the energy we want to use. That's the energy of focusing on what you want. See, because remember, focus can go either way.
Mm-hmm.
It can go to what you want, or it can go to what you don't want. But love of self, so you have two paths of focus, but love of self takes you to the path of loving yourself, like I said, which takes you to the path of obtaining and creating what you want, as far as peace, ease, prosperity. Because see, the other stuff you want too. You just don't think you want it, but you want it because that's why you created it in the first place. And it's serving its own purpose. See, focusing on something you want and manifesting that is supporting you in several ways. But at the same token, focusing on what you don't want that you've created is also providing you with lessons.
Right.
So both pathways provide you with lessons. It's what pathway do you want?
Yes, I guess like maybe the other pathway, the one we think we don't want, helps us in appreciating the heck out of what we do want.
Absolutely.
So when it does come, you say, oof, okay, good job, good job.
Right, right. Absolutely, absolutely. So then I think that we can tack on, like you said, Leigh, we can tack on that word, appreciation. Appreciation. So there's a purpose or purposes for us to create things that we don't want. You know, it's like you don't want, well, some people might want to win the chess game every time, but then there's some people that say, I want an opponent that's really going to give me a run for my money. You know, if you sit down with someone and you're playing chess or checkers or some kind of board game, and you beat them every time, after a while, you're going to get bored and say, I need somebody else that's going to give me a little bit more juice. Get the juices flowing. That's what this life is like. Give me something that's going to give me a little jolt, give me a little more juice that I can put into it. Let me see how I can overcome this.
Anyone, when we're creating challenges, think that support for the juice.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, it's interesting because so getting back to a point you made just a couple of seconds ago, we could be practicing that moment of realization and self-love and reinforcing that when we're talking to our inner parts. I mean, can we sort of phrase it in that way, like, I am loving myself unconditionally, and if there's some parts of you unconscious that do not support that, we are changing and headed down the unconditional love path. So get on board. I appreciate that you've done, you've helped me thus far seeing things. now we're taking another path. So, I mean, is it that kind of talk we say to ourselves?
Absolutely, absolutely. As if you were driving and you didn't have a GPS to talk to you, and you were asking your friend, "How are we going to get to Mary Jane's house?" What is she going to tell you? She's going to tell you the way that she feels that you can go to get to Mary Jane's house. Now, what she says may take you 2 hours to get Mary Jane's house. But you could have had, instead of asking Mary Jane to get you, or Suzanne or whatever to get you to Mary Jane's house, you could have asked Jim, who's sitting in the back of the car, "Jim, which way do you think we should use?" But the more you love yourself, the more you're going to use Jim, because Jim is going to get you to Mary Jane's house in an hour instead of 2 hours.
And probably without any detours
Absolutely.
and without any bumps in the road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, one thing, choice. Everything is choice. And what does the choice do? The choice then is, what am I going to focus on? And the other choice is, am I going to focus in peace and ease, or am I going to focus in desperation and fear? You see.
Right. And it's okay if we slip into desperation and fear sometimes, because when you're out of desperation and fear, you realize some completely different emotions. So
Absolutely. It's the juice. Give me a little bit more juice. I want to exercise what I'm learning here.
practice.
Just feed me a little bit of juice. Don't give me too much. You don't want, well, some people want to wallow. Everybody's different. Everybody's exploring their realities and their ability to create realities that really, really, some of them are challenging.
Realm, we are getting ready to wrap this podcast up. Can you remind the listeners, there's those 5: we love ourselves unconditionally, we forgive unconditionally.
That is the affirmation we give. We love ourselves unconditionally. And the we is you and your unconscious.
Okay.
We forgive unconditionally. We and your unconscious. And you're not putting anybody's name there or anything there because you don't know. Sometimes we don't know we need to forgive somebody. But wait, it's going to change now. So the third statement is, we love ourselves unconditionally. Again, we're socking it to ourselves again. But then here comes the biggie. We feel ourselves loving ourselves. See that word feel? That means we're taking it down deeply inside of us and recognizing that love of self. And then the next part is, we forgive ourselves. We forgive ourselves and love ourselves unconditionally, because some people want to beat up on themselves. Why beat up on yourselves?
Can we just get to the last 2? We thank
you. We thank you. When you understand you created your own reality, then nobody did anything to you. It's impossible for somebody to hurt you. So release that. You created the crap.
Thank you, Realm.
Bye, y'all. Bye.
Thank you, Realm. Thank you, Greta. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you for the listeners that joined us live and all those who will listen at another date. This is Shifting Impressions, conversations with the realm of beings until we create each other again.
Once again, thanks for joining us at Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings on TransformationTalkRadio.com. As you have explored today's creation of reality experience with Leigh, Yvonne, the Realm, and me, Gretta, each of you is being supported by us in further developing the understanding that you are not just an individual existing in linear time and space, but a multi-dimensional force of infinite possibilities who is connected to all. So begin to create the realities you want. Join us every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Shifting Impressions at TransformationTalkRadio.com. So long until we create each other again next Friday.